Hello, welcome everybody. This is part 2 of Dr. Jen Vitry. This is amazing information, and we're going to pick right up and continue right where we left off.
Thank you, Scott. It's called Nutrigenomics, I believe. And we just want to reintroduce Dr. Jen Vitry, Doctor of Clinical Nutrition. She's also on the Healing ALS Medical Advisory Team. So, Dr. Vitry, we're so happy to have you.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks, Scott and Tish. Are you ready to get started?
Absolutely. So we did part 1, which was pretty technical, and now we're going to go to part 2, which is more examples and real world application.
Yes, and I'm in the woods, so I hope the internet connection is great and not a little spotty, but we don't have a ton of science to cover. We're going to go over the labs, and we're going to do a spotlight on a pal. Okay, nutrigenomics for ALS. This is part 2. Okay, this is part 2, and I promise not to get too in the weeds with the science like part 1. It's helpful to know how to think about applying nutrigenomics data. So part 1 is there to flip through when you're interested, and just take it in bite-sized pieces and ask me if you have questions. My office email is on there, my website with contact information. Today we're just going to peek back at a few of the topics we covered in part 1. Talk about the various labs that I use offering nutrigenomics testing, some of their different strengths, and highlight some progress we've been seeing in applying the testing. And we're also going to do a spotlight on the progress of one pal. Okay, nutrigenetics investigates how your inherited variations, or SNPs, alter your baseline nutrient processing, tolerance levels, and physiological demands. For example, MTHFR variations compromise your folate pathways, making standard folic acid synthetic supplements highly ineffective. VDR SNPs dictate how well you bind vitamin D, whereas nutrigenomics investigates how bioactives in foods such as sulforaphane, resveratrol, curcumin modify cellular signaling, DNA translation, and overall epigenetic expression. Here, food acts as cellular software. It bioactivates transcription binders to upregulate gene networks like anti-inflammatory proteins or glutathione production. We've discussed at length in the last session these areas, but generally the areas of significance for SNP testing in my mind are synthetic inflammation, certain genetic variations like IL-6 or TNF alphas cause the body to overreact with constant inflammation. But we can calm this response with targeted nutrients, supporting detox pathways, and reducing triggers. Methylation, we evaluate key genes to see how well your body detoxes, repairs DNA, activates genes, supports mood. We can support optimal methylation with targeted nutrients, lifestyle, and supplements, as you know. And then nutrient absorption, of course, my favorite is looking at specific SNPs. We can identify potential, say, reoccurring deficiencies and recommend more particularized formulas that work for you, like a different B12 or additional amounts of certain nutrients. And these 3 elements work together to keep your motor neurons, or your nerve cells, alive, energized, and protected from damage. Super important, right? Biochemical pathways maintain the vital communication lines running from the upper motor neurons in the brain down to the lower motor neurons in the spinal cord. Your detox system, super important. They clear out cellular waste to protect those long, delicate nerve fibers from breaking down. And of course, mitochondrial function supplies that continuous power to these neurons to transmit the electrical signals that tell your muscles to move. Looking at these SNPs in these areas, targeting them with precision nutrition is vital for improving function. Okay, healthy cells is the name of the game. Let's take a walk around this graphic to remember the important aims. Zombie cells is the unhealthy cell death, where cells hang around consuming nutrients but don't perform a function. Viruses, mycotoxins, microbes can cause dysfunction in the cell. Oxidative stress, we talk a lot about the byproducts of the creation of ATP in part 1, and how we need a healthy redox system processing them. We want proper methylation support, membrane integrity, and protein unfolding, and not unfolding protein stacking. And we need good energy production and DNA repair. So the nutrigenomics tests are going to look at variations in genes that interrupt one or more of these processes. And of course, target nutrient and lifestyle interventions to get the systems back in line. I promise only a few more of these graphics, but this is so important for perspective's sake. This graphic shows just how many of these quote cell powerhouses, our mitochondria, live in different parts of the body. We say in these lectures, we need to support the mitochondria inside the cell to improve ALS. Well, as we see here, heart cells contain the highest number of mitochondria, 5,000 to 8,000 plus, because they require relentless, lifelong energy to pump blood without ever resting. Whereas brain cells have a high count, 1,000 to 2,000 plus, to constantly fuel intense electrical signaling and of course, complex information processing. And we have about 170 billion brain cells. Skin cells, they need the fewest mitochondria, like 100 to 200, because their primary job is just to form structural barriers. But we have 20 to 30 billion of those cells as well. This is why we need to get on a cellular level and look at gene variations or SNPs and support what's not working so it can work across the board. Okay, this is the only graphic like this. I know I had a ton of these intense graphics in the last session. This will be the only one, but this is a very, very important concept to grasp. On the left is the healthy cell death, and we need it. Autophagy allows the body to systemically recycle damaged parts, ensuring the cells can constantly repair and renew and maintain proper function. Otherwise, zombie cells refuse to clear out like freeloaders on the right, draining the body's vital nutrients and resources, but they continue to secrete inflammatory signals that damage the surrounding healthy tissues. They're all the problem with none of the benefits. And some SNPs like SIRT1 or FOXO3, they can naturally prime the body to lean into clean recycling process of autophagy on the left, helping cells bypass the stagnation and return to a sort of efficient clearing and cleaning, which means less trouble and more production. Okay, on to the labs. Let's evaluate 4 premium genomic labs. I work with these labs in various degrees, and I'll tell you why. We walk through each one, and I'll discuss their unique strengths, and I'll share my preferences. Okay, 3x4 Blueprint Genome Lab. Dr. Yael Yaffe, a pioneer in nutrigenomics. She has a PhD in biology and is a nutritionist, so that's a perfect combination to me. 3x4 Blueprint is built around systems biology, and you know I love some biology. Instead of telling a patient they have one bad gene, like a single mutation, 3x4 aggregates all antioxidant genes, for instance, into, say, a functional oxidative stress pathway score. This systems approach presents a broader view, and it guides us clinicians towards structural pathway imbalances rather than chasing an isolated mutation. I'm a pathways person, as you know, so I love this test. Here's one page from the report, and I love this graphic. Right away, you can see the pathways that need the most support. Each one of these is a cluster, each bar is a cluster of SNPs, which you can see outlined elsewhere in the report. But this is very helpful for me as a practitioner. I can show this to my client, why I'm choosing to prioritize one plan over another. Your genes do not change, remember this. So we can work with this report for a year or more. Magenta, as you see in methylation, the very top pathway, shows the greatest need. And then indigo or purple, then blue, and then green or yellow. I think it's yellow. They call it green. You do have some protective genes to factor in and some genes with no impact. And remember, just because you have a SNP does not mean you're going to be impacted. That's why the cluster pathway projections are better instead of a single gene. These guys at 3x4 are doing the work for me so I can pick the route quickly. And in their reports, there are these amazing graphics and details to guide you through the functional systems and how they interact. They have nice little summaries and details, but each task demonstrates your individual strengths and weaknesses. In this way, the client can learn about the body and where we have to focus first. I also like this. They cover how you convert food into fuel or energy, specifically your strengths and weaknesses, which we can then adapt into your nutrition plan according to your genes, and also what vulnerabilities do you have around key nutrients here on the right. This is another reason I like the 3x4 blueprint, folks. This is one of their many infographics walking us through the oxidative stress and nutrigenomics impact. It's the story, it's the relationship to them. They're constantly reinventing ways to look at the process, the impacted pathways, and the downstream effects. How can we go upstream to offset this potential? And this is another one of their great teaching instruments. This is very helpful when working with my clients. I'm able to then isolate what is their unique issues with inflammation based on which SNPs are impacted. At the top, if it's foot 2, it's the gut, or ApoE, the brain, or injury, or it could be both. These are the triggers, right? And then there is the varying aspects of how the body responds through innate or adaptive immunity on the left there. On the right, we can start to dissect the inflammatory cascade further, and then utilize our SNPs at the bottom to offset the continued chronic inflammation that's causing the problems. 3x4 folks are interested in the story, and so am I. Everything is about relationships in the body. It's all connected. I used this lab most recently for these reasons. I want to dissect your particular story, plug in the variables, and figure out together how we're going to get the conclusion or the healthy balance that we need. Okay, LifeCode is another great lab. LifeCode GX, they're based in the UK. They offer incredible pathway depth. Rather than a general health overview, they give us other specific targeted modular modules. For ALS, I consider their specialized panels such as the metals and minerals, showing SNPs that cause vulnerability to having metals on board or specific mineral deficiencies. In addition, their data privacy is highly reassuring. After 6 months, they purge the data for individuals. Here's a sample report on detox pathways. Notice the colored dots showing red and yellow for downregulation. Here, they're grouping it up into the different pathways. Their reports offer insight on supporting specific systems while citing the SNP specifics, that's a lot of S's, and what environmental factors are playing a role. Here's the appetite regulation. This is very important for ALS. You can see the hormones, ghrelin and leptin at the top, the SNPs, and the impact in purple. This is really helpful to walk a client through this so they can see what the environmental factors or what the supporting nutrients might be. Here's another panel that LifeCode runs. It's the HPA and HPG axis, and it governs stress management and cortisol production. We need to activate the parasympathetic system to be in rest and digest instead of fight or flight, as you know. And this gives us a lot of information to help support these pathways. Okay, nutrigenomics. This lab originates from research at, I think, the University of Toronto. They only do 70 to 77 SNPs, but each result has been reproduced in random clinical trials. I basically use this lab when someone is pretty familiar with nutrigenomics and wants direct diet advice without my interpretation on items like whether they have a high risk response to caffeine, low folate assimilation, or maybe specific sodium sensitivities. This is what their test looks like. It's colorful. And for example, this person has vulnerabilities with choline, which is super supportive for liver and brain health. They provide in-depth recommendations in detail, as you can see here, both about the SNPs, the background on choline, what they recommend. And usually I just send this to the clients with the results and they're off and they call me with questions if they want supplement suggestions. And then Fagron Nutrigen Lab represents the clinical bridge to customizing supplementation. I barely use them, but if for some reason we need to calculate how much resveratrol, curcumin, or methylated B vitamins a patient requires, Fagron's algorithms process the patient's 363 plus variations, and they actually formulate a direct compound supplement prescription, which is pretty wild. The patient can purchase this directly as a single daily customized nutrient compound. I do not do this often. They also provide details on important SNPs impacting nutrition and inflammation and hunger, as you can see, and provide the implications. It's also a lot of data, and I'm happy to help walk you through it. Here's an example of one panel of their autoimmune test. And as you can see, there's lifestyle recommendations, laboratory recommendations. It gives you the SNP, it gives you the variant, and it gives you therapeutic suggestions like curcumin, N-acetylcysteine, glutathione. Okay, so here's a short comparison. I have secured discounts for PALS. So I'll talk about, Tish and I will talk about that after. From the top 3 labs, and can place the order for you. We'll talk about it. You have to be a person diagnosed with ALS to qualify for the discounts. Nutrigenomics anchors its testing entirely on rigorous institutional science, refusing to follow unproven genetic trends. Every recommendation in their reports are peer-reviewed human clinical trials, and that's what separates Nutrigenomics from some of the other labs. 3x4 Blueprint excels at their user experience by converting complex pathway data into those intuitive, color-coded infographics. The highly visual presentation, I think, makes the data instantly digestible for patients, and it helps really prioritize plans pretty quickly. LifeCode, super great lab as well. They cater to patients highly protected of their genetic footprint by offering modular panels backed by strict privacy controls. They don't commercialize or build massive biobanks, ensuring complete patient ownership of their data. And we discussed Fagron Nutrigen. They analyze your DNA to identify exact metabolic deficiencies and immediately translate those findings into a precise recipe. And they are, I think, the largest major raw ingredient supplier. So they are a sort of one-stop shop for nutrigenomics testing and special chemical formula compounding. And for the couple of times I've used them, it's been really helpful for the client. All right, let's talk about some success stories. So here are some benefits I have seen from utilizing nutrigenomics in my work. And just know that most of my clients, we also work on the gut and metabolic pathways with other functional medicine labs, but the vulnerabilities and the priorities are guided largely by the nutrigenomics test. And you see, we've been able to stabilize chronic anemia. This is a really big deal, normalizing CBC, metabolic panels. We have a reversed creatinine decline. I'll talk about that next. And then, of course, improvements in functional labs are huge, because when you look at that metabolomics or organic acid test and you see that you're outside of the median range, this is really important because, and I'm sure this is going to be in another session, but when you're outside of those ranges in your OAT test, you're blocking a pathway. Even if you're high in cysteine or low in manganese for one of the pathways. You have to be in the middle. Taking all these supplements and maxing out, we want you to be in the middle. We want to optimize the best chance of getting the pathway to work optimally. And that's not by using high levels or low levels, but using the right levels. We have reduced mycotoxins, and the GI map is huge. The first thing I really like to do is get in there and support the gut, because when I test someone with ALS, the permeability is super high. There's bacteria, there's H. pylori, there's IgG, there is immune reaction. I mean, the gut seems to be the place to start. So we've seen changes in all of these tests by using the nutrigenomics to see why things weren't working and to target the support. And also you see physical and functional milestones. We've got strength, we've got weight gain, we're greater fluid movement, better daily exercise. And this is really important, social re-engagement. Leaving the house, figuring out how to get out and about in some way or another is super important. Okay, so we've had the return of authentic laughter, smiling, and daily joy. That's super important. Sometimes our guys need, we look at the neurotransmitters and we look at the SNPs and we see their mood is down for a reason, and we can, upregulate it with an adaptogen that helps your body react, not brace with stress, like rhodiola or holy basil. Your mental resilience is really important. And then having that profound hope and future focused mindset return is super important for healing. Off medications, we've seen clients discontinuing proton pump. And this is really important because my clients are saying, hey, I want to be reversing according to the standards. I want to be running again. And I say, well, hold on a second. Let's look at your gut. You're not reacting. You're not making mucus. You're not on a proton pump inhibitor. You're digesting your food. You're having consistent bowel movements. This is powerful. You have ALS and you have restored your gut to functioning. And now we can actually digest those nutrients and assimilate them to the areas they need to go. I had a client come off thyroid medicine for hypothyroidism. We've eliminated multiple migraine medicines, which is pretty powerful because even people with ALS, even people without ALS, it's hard to figure out migraines and get rid of them. It's multifactorial, just like sleep. And then, of course, the NSAIDs and the pain management, that's come down. I also have natural supplements I use. And then sleep aids and anxiety. So this is a lot of success, taking it one step at a time and using genes to support your pathways. I picked a client who's amazing. She's a super pal, and we're going to give her a spotlight. Callie has lived a full life, having kids and traveling the world and performing in theater in Chicago and around the country. She lived the life of performing artists, always on the go, enjoying life at full speed. Then she met David, the love of her life, and at the same time, she was diagnosed with ALS. When I met them in November, David called looking for support. At the time, Callie wasn't doing great. She was down with an infection and low energy, and they needed all kinds of guidance for G-tube and mucus and supplements, and she was in the hospital shortly thereafter. The doctors did not think she would make it. They told her to write a will. I'm sure you've all heard that before. And this is really hard to come back from, they told her. 6 months later, Callie went to the ALS Gala in Chicago. That's the middle picture. And funny enough, she ran into her doctors there who were very surprised to see her, especially wheeling around in a good mood and having a good time. This woman has continued to power through and show up for all the tests, all the hard work, getting through the tough times and believing it will get better. Here she is this month at the zoo with friends and David. Callie loves the sloth and got a private hang with one. Her spirit is mighty, and she is an inspiration to all around her. Since December, we have balanced her blood work, still working on her hemoglobin and MCH, which are low, but her iron panel is optimal now. as are her liver enzymes. Her gut health has dramatically improved. She's down to only 1/3 of the mycotoxins from mold and low candida and bacteria. Now, know that Callie has taken many functional medicine labs with me, and we've worked together for 8 months, but the nutrigenomics test continues to guide our strategies. And one big win from last month, her creatinine marker, which typically continues to fall with ALS and muscle wasting, stopped declining and actually took a slight turn upward. We were psyched. There's definitely been hurdles with intense suffocating mucus in the mouth, shuffling varieties of formulas to help keep her IgG reaction low while improving her gut health, detox, and system functioning. We killed off a lot of candida and mycotoxins. Callie is now transitioning to real foods with limited mucus and yeast production like before. She did break her foot in a wheelchair van incident, which she'll have to tell you about, and suffered another chest infection in mid-April. Her home nurse found fluid in both lungs at the time, and we were very worried. Energy and mood was down and mucus was back up. She was magically able to fight off the infection with her stronger immune system without antibiotics, which was her choice, and her lungs cleared, but was great, and her lungs cleared without even a change in respiratory support level. She's still on level 1, which has not changed since January. Callie is a powerhouse, and David's love is certainly a factor. A shout out to the caregivers. You make all the difference. Here you see they just won the first level of the couple competition on Facebook. Go vote for these guys. What this really shows, with good functional testing, lots of spirit and nutrition support, and a good but constantly evolving health strategy and the right team, progress can be made, albeit slowly. I am definitely in it with Callie and David, in it to win it. And here are our references. And please give me, here's my website, and here's an email to reach out to me to get further information on testing.
Thank you, Dr. Jen Vitry. This really gives hope, and she's so inspirational. I'm looking
Callie?
at the emails on it. Yes, she's amazing.
She is amazing.
Yeah. So, so Jen, they just have to email you or go to your website as far as getting, signing up for this testing if you're diagnosed with ALS.
So good news, Tish. I was able to get in contact with the labs, and I told them about healing ALS and this wonderful step. And they, each one of the top 3 offered a discount on their testing. You have to be diagnosed with ALS, and I will place the order for you. To facilitate this, I went ahead and set up a package on my website to make this a little more seamless. And for $300 or something, you can click it, schedule a half-hour call with me. We'll pick the test for you, get it ordered. When the results are in, I will do an analysis of it, give you a short 3-step meal plan, supplements, and lifestyles, and have an hour session with you to go over the results. I thought that way we are just getting these reports into people's hands. If they want to do further work with me, they can, but let's get some of these reports circulating. And yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see all that we can change with some nutrigenomic support.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I mean, that's a really good deal. If you've got ALS, if you've been diagnosed, please talk to Dr. Jen. That's fantastic. So I'm excited. Thank you so much. We will be having a Q&A on this at some point, so you can go to healingals.org to find out more about that. Thank you. This is awesome. And this will be part of the 47 steps as well on healing ALS. So anything else you have for Dr. Vitry?
I think that's fantastic, and it gives hope, and this is a view that not many people know about. So the more we talk about this and the more we get this out, I think more doctors will probably catch on and they will see this. And as more data, if we can go ahead and get more people signing into our registry and have more data on this, I think it'll really help.
Right.
I mean, I think that's the 2 goals. One, that we have a collaborative team, that we have nutritionists and we have neurologists. ALS deserve a collaborative team, and acupuncturists, a chiropractor. We need a team, and nutrigenomics plays a role in how we, strategize about the health plan and move forward. Nutrition is really powerful. So, and like you said, hopefully some of this data will also predict where we're seeing sort of trends and with ALS PALS for the SNPs that are really causing systemic inflammation and detox issues. It's going to be exciting. I'm excited.
And we're going to be able to, see the major comments. For example, if you cannot methylate B vitamins, you've got to take a methylated form of your B vitamins. So this science that you just explained today is explaining why. Maybe you should take methylated B vitamins instead of B vitamins. It's not necessary for everybody, but if you have that SNP, it's necessary for you. And that's kind of, why are you short on this particular B? Well, guess what? You're not taking the methylated form. And if you were taking the methylated form, that would really make a difference on your blood work, balancing your body, being able to heal your mitochondria, etc.
Yeah, and not waste money on supplements that aren't working and not causing things like the folate trap. If you're taking the wrong folate, you can actually hinder the whole methylation or one carbon metabolism. And yeah, it's kind of starting at the beginning. What do we actually need? Why do you need it? The client needs to know, why do you need it? So they're working on their body and visualizing what the nutrition is doing for them. But yeah, let's not waste money. Let's not take what we don't need, and let's figure out what we do need and target the nutrition.
Right. So this initial $300 can actually save money because there might be 7 or 8 supplements that people, or 10 supplements people don't need.
Oh, yeah.
Save money on those supplements that they don't need. And then, hey, wait a minute, you're not taking these 3 that are really important. So let's take
the tests are all around $300. There's when I got discounts, I think almost all of them fall under 300, like from 270 to 320, something like that. And then I'm offering, just as a, to get them in, figure out, help, which test do you need? What are they may have made a lot of progress already, or they might be just beginning. So which test do they prefer? We get it ordered for them with the discount. When the results are in, we set up that hour meeting, and I'll just go over it with them for an hour, and I'll give them a little plan I drew up on the first 3 steps. Maybe it's inflammation and oxidative stress, or maybe it's detox and glucose and insulin, or maybe, depending on what their most impacted SNPs are, I'll give them just, a 3-step plan to get going.
Right, just to get started. Fantastic. Thank you so much. We so appreciate your time and what you're doing for the ALS community. You're giving them this great deal, which is fantastic. It's really, look, people just need some direction and guidance, and this is the first step. So thank you so much for making this easy for people.
The ALS clients that I've had are some of the most powerful people I've met. And so, yeah, they just need more information, and I'm here to give it and support. So
thank you for having me.
And everybody, don't forget, head on over to healingals.org so you can listen to the Q&A section.